there? I mean, or just things just started clicking naturally? Or?
Yeah, just things kind of started click naturally. We're just kind of getting a rhythm, and our guys have the whole season been super proud of them. Thinking about like Hawaii, we end it with big long drives in the fourth quarter, and Washington State's really close in the fourth quarter, and we're able to kind of establish our will at the end of the game, what's most important. So that's what's been really proud of those guys. Not necessarily always how it starts. Some games we started fast because Ashton's made 8 guys missed and scored a 6-yard touchdown, and other games we haven't started as fast, but those guys have always done a good job staying in the fight and finishing really strong.
What's those penalties? I mean, it's not really something that's been an issue for you guys, but just is that frustrating you guys, or a good reminder too that puts you behind the chains and stuff?
Yeah, penalties are always extremely frustrating, especially the pre-snap penalties. Like those are always like just as a coach really like keep you up at night. So it's always finding a way. Okay, what do we do in our prep to make sure those guys don't repeat those same mistakes, and then just allowing those guys to relax. Lots of times those pre-snap penalties, guys are like way too tense, they're way too wound up, and it's just finding a way again, like getting in the rhythm, getting in that relaxed kind of exact spot they need to be where they can go execute and come off the ball without being amped up where they're false starting.
What's the biggest challenge when you're trying to face a team that loads the box with 8 or 9 and you've got 5 or maybe 6 with a tight end? And how do you go about trying to do that when you have fewer numbers?
That's always the fun challenge, is like who's the tailback have, because he's going to have a couple guys. So it's every week. Coach Pollard does a great job of designing a scheme that's going to like allow our guys to come off and be physical, knowing that there may be an unblocked guy, and figuring out like making sure that guy is as far away from the point of attack as possible. So it's like, okay, how are we adjusting our scheme or our rules or IDs this week to make sure that guy isn't right at the line of scrimmage, able to disrupt it. Because we've seen like our tailbacks, all those guys, they can get started, they can be super explosive. Like that's our goal every week, is to allow our targeting and our technique to get those guys started.
Does your group like going for it on fourth down? What's their mentality on that down?
They love it. They're always like, if you would ask them like, hey, should we go for it? It could be 4th and 15. They're like, yeah, let's go, run pounds. Like, well, it may not be the best thing to do. So that that's one of those things where like at big moments they want to carry as much of the burden or be the reason why we're successful. So they love it. And Coach Carter's done a great job of putting us in really good situations this year on those 4th down plays.
But dating back to last year, you guys are 18 of 22 on 4th down conversions. What makes that? Where does the success start from? I guess.
You have to ask Coach Cutter that, right? He's the guy calling all the plays, so I think he just does a good job every week of kind of being ahead of it. Coach Danielson does a good job every week, kind of like talking about the situations and when those possible 4th down situations are going to come up. It's always hard when you don't know those are going to come up to try to find a really good play. So we've those guys, Coach Danielson, Coach Cutter, have done a really good job just kind of identifying it and trying to get out ahead of it, so they have a good plan.
When you look at Trey White, just what does he do that gets him to the quarterback so easily?
I don't know what you're talking about. Who?
The
I'm just kidding. We know exactly what you're talking about. We know exactly what you're talking about. That guy is a phenomenal player, super disruptive, and he's got like such a high motor, puts his body on the line like every single time. You can see there's sometimes looks like the offensive lineman's pancaking him, and he's like diving and just grabbing a shoelace and getting a sack. So he's super dynamic, and they do a really good job in their scheme finding ways to get him unblocked and to make it challenging and get good mismatches. So like whenever a player like that comes on the blue, like everyone is super geared up to know exactly where he is every single play.
How much do you have to change your scheme, or do you kind of try to keep what's been working for you guys?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Like there's certain plays like you have to be calculated with risk on when you don't need to triple team a guy like that, and when you can just leave him isolated one-on-one. So it's always kind of like figuring out in the flow of game like where those times come to take a calculated risk where you don't have to have the whole offensive line and the tailback and the tight end all chipping him.
Tim, like for an offensive lineman, what does good pocket awareness or good pocket presence mean to have out of your quarterback?
Everything. And that's, again, like I think we've done a decent job statistically this year in sacks, and if you go back and look, a lot of that is like the quarterbacks are doing a phenomenal job moving around just enough to avoid the rush, kind of like the Tom Brady. Now, you don't have to be ripping off 60-yard runs to be a really good athlete in the pocket, and then being able to keep your eyes downfield and find the open receiver. Mad Dog's done a really good job at that, and lots of times I'm holding my breath and like, oh my, and then the ball gets out. It's like, whew, good, like that's all Mad Dog. Good job, buddy.
I don't love making this specific comparison, but like in terms of a guy that just has a savvy feel for making those little moves, I don't know if we've seen one here do it as consistently as Maddox, since the guy that has a mosaic, mural over there
The lefty?
on that wall.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, just in terms of that, like how impressive is he? And I mean, are there, dare I say, any similarities with just the ability to kind of not take sacks and keep an offense on track?
That's definitely one of the things I think, like when you have time after the season, you can kind of reflect. I wasn't here when Kellen was here, so I don't really know, obviously a lot of people in the building were, but I think after we can take some time and actually study it and look at it, everyone will be like, man, that was pretty impressive of his just ability to navigate in the pocket, keep his eyes downfield, and still be able to find the open receiver.
Couple more.
The chess match you mentioned about, blocking Trey White. When you have an offensive line that you line up left tackle to right tackle and stays the same, does the defense have an advantage of being able to move somebody around in the front where you guys come up with your 5 across?
Yes, and I think that happens. That's more, I think, a little bit more prevalent in the NFL, where everything's huddle, everything's a little slower. College football is just a little different, where everything's a little bit more no huddle, a little bit more up tempo. So you see lots of college defenses. They don't play like a strong and a weak linebacker. They have a field and a boundary. They don't play a strong end and a weak end. They have a boundary end and a field end. So I think lots of times in those situations we can kind of dictate how we want to handle 47. And then they, again, like I said, on third down, they do a phenomenal job. He's playing linebacker, he's playing the field, he's playing the boundary, he's playing all over. So that's the one down and distance on third pass when defenses aren't necessarily as concerned with controlling the run, making good run fits, where he's going to be a little bit more exotic and all over the place.
How do you feel like the other Steel did against UNLV this last week?
The greatest thing about those guys is that I just laugh, because as soon as Jake comes off, Jason Sayers, great job! They're just so juiced and passionate for each other. So it's just awesome, and that energy kind of goes to everyone, just having that positive energy. So I think it's always so fun just to see those guys, how excited they are. And in the meeting room, they also get after each other a little bit. It's kind of like that brother rivalry. When it's you and your brother at the house, you kind of hate each other and throwing each other into the coffee table. But when the kid comes next door, it's you look at your brother let's go beat this kid up. So they definitely have that dynamic, which is always really fun to see. I got 2 brothers, so we were definitely like that. So it's fun to see them.
I feel like that was his most run since transferring to Boise State in a game, though. At least definitely a meaningful game, right? So
yeah, he's going to continue to get more. He had that foot injury that just is really difficult to come back from, not physically, but just missing time, being a new guy and being a transfer. So he's getting better and better every week, and will continue to get more and more every week.
Last one.